The conflict in Arjuna must be healed. He must attain to a new, integral, comprehensive consciousness. Having thus addressed Krishna, the mighty Gudakesha Arjuna said to Govinda, "I will not fight," and became silent. "I will not fight," Arjuna, without waiting for the advice of the teacher, seems to have made up his mind. While he asked the teacher to advise him, his mind is not open. The task of the teacher becomes more difficult now. The conscience of the teacher is indicated by this word Madhusudana. The voice of truth can be heard only in silence. To him, thus depressed in the midst of two armies, "O Bharata, Rishikesha, smiling as it were, spoke this word." In that moment of depression, the sinking heart of Arjuna heard the divine voice of Krishna. The smile indicates that he saw through Arjuna's attempt at rationalization of what is now known as wishful thinking. The attitude of the Savior God, who knows all the sins and sorrows of suffering humanity, is one of tender pity and wishful understanding. Now, the distinction between self and body. We should not grieve for what is imperishable. The blessed Lord said, "Asocyananvasochaspam pragyavadang savasase gatasu nagatasungscha nanusochanti panditaha." Thou grievest for those whom thou shouldn't grieve for, and yet thou speakest words about wisdom. Wise men do not grieve for the dead or for the living. The teacher explains in brief the wisdom of the Sankhya philosophy. The Sankhya does not refer to Kapila's system but to the teachings of the Upanishads here. Natvevaham jatu nasam natvam neme janadhipaham nachaiva na bhavishyamaham sarve vayamatah param. Never was there a time when I was not, nor thou, nor these lots of men, nor will there ever be a time hereafter when we all shall cease to be. Shankara looks upon this reference to plurality as conventional. He urges us to know that the plural number is used here with reference to the bodies that are different and not with regard to the one universal self. The reference here is not to the eternity of the Absolute Spirit, but to the pre-existence and post-existence of the empirical egos. The plurality of egos is a fact of the empirical universe. Each individual is an ascent from initial non-existence to full existence as a real, from asat to sat. While the Sankhya system postulates a plurality of souls, the Gita reconciles this with the unity. the one Kshetrajna in whom we live, move, and have our being. Brahman is the basis of all things and is not itself a thing. Brahman does not exist in time, but time is in it. In this sense also, the egos have neither beginning nor end. Souls are like Brahman, for the cause and effect are essentially one, as the sayings, I am Brahman, that art thou, indicates. All creatures have existed eternally in the divine essence as in their exemplar. So far as they conform to the divine idea, all beings were before their creation one with the essence of God. The personal Lord, the divine Creator, is co-equal with the empirical universe. In essence, He is the totality of empirical existences. The Lord of the beings travels in the wombs. Though unborn, He is born in many ways. Shankara says, of a truth, God is the only transmigrant. Compare with this parcel's statement that Christ will be in a agony till the end of the world. He takes upon Himself the wounds inflicted on humanity. He suffers the conditions of created existence. Liberated souls suffer in time and enter peace at the end of time, though they participate in divine life even now. Only if the personal Supreme is freely limited, we are helplessly limited. If He is master of the play of Prakriti, we are subject to its play. Ignorance affects the individual spirit, but not the universal spirit. Till the cosmic process ends, the multiplicity of individuals with their distinctive qualitative contents persist. The multiplicity is not separable from the cosmos. While the liberated souls know the truth and live in it, the unliberated ones pass from birth to birth, tied by the bondage of works. Hari Om Tat Sat.